welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane, whether you're watching us live on our YouTube channel, 9 o'clock Tuesday night, or whether you're watching us on Channel 31, 9:30 Wednesday night, whether it's via the old-fashioned way in front of like a television type thingy, or whether you're watching us via the app. Yes, we have an app. Channel 31 has an app. Download the app now and it will change your life forever. If you are watching us live, if there's any members of the Australian cricket team watching down in Tasmania, thanks a lot, you bastards. If Christmas wasn't bad enough, I don't even have decent cricket to watch. The test I've booked for day 3 of the Boxing Day test, all right? Day 3. Remember that. Thank you. And now back to motorsport. Joining us a little bit later on in the program will be our special guest this week. He's going to be competing this weekend, this Saturday night, out at Calder Park for the Roe Memorial Superstock Trophy. His name is Darren Parker. He'll be joining us a little bit later on in the program. Also, we've got some great music at the end of the show. We love having live music on the show, and Damie Lou Chevelle will be joining us a little bit later on as well. But right now, let's get right into what's been happening on the weekend, both locally and internationally. This is the In Pit Lane News. Clark Quinn has won his 3rd Australian GT Championship after a controversial end to the series at the spectacular Highlands Park circuit in New Zealand. Quinn crossed the line 3rd but picked up the title after his main rival Nathan Morecambe was excluded from the results after making contact with Quinn on the final lap. The race was won by the McLaren pairing of Nathan Antunes and Elliot Barber, with Craig Baird and Michael Armand taking 2nd. The teams returned to the track on Sunday for the endurance leg of the weekend, which saw victory go to the Baird and Armand Mercedes ahead of the Aston Martin of Greg Murphy and Tony Quinn. However, 8th place was enough to give Morecambe and his co-driver Grant Denyer the win in the Australian Endurance Championship. And Australia GT have announced their calendar for 2017, and it'll include only one Supercar Championship round. The series will once again kick off on the streets of Adelaide before moving on to the Australian Grand Prix meeting at Albert Park. But that'll be the only meeting that the class shares with the supercars. The new calendar was unveiled to teams during the category's end of seasons awards at Highlands Park, where manager Ken Collier declared that Australia GT was no longer a support category. The loss of the class will be something of a blow to supercars who have struggled to put together an enticing support card on occasions this year. And the man behind the international GT3 revolution, Stefan Rattel, was an interested spectator at Highlands last weekend. Rattel said he's keen to work with Australian GT to create a new Asia-Pacific GT event in New Zealand in 2018. Rattel took the opportunity to accept the invitation to attend the event from Australian GT owner Tony Quinn as he headed through to attend this weekend's Macau Grand Prix. That event will feature the FIA GT3 World Cup, which is organised by Rattel's SRO group, who will also run next year's expanded Asian GT series. Australia will be represented at Macau by Melbourne driver Ricky Capo in a BMW Z4. And good news, once again, Australian fans can watch all the action of the Macau Grand Prix meeting live this weekend. Just head to the In Pit Lane website from this Thursday at 10 a.m. Melbourne time. Always a spectacular meeting, great meeting to have a look at. And thanks for letting us stream that once again. Blue skies and warm weather in Sydney for the final round of the Shannons Nationals. The event marked the end of 2 long-running sponsorships, with both event sponsor Shannons and Sportsday Series sponsor Kerrick winding up their long-term support. On the track, the main event was a 4-hour production car race, and it was yet another thrilling and heartbreaking endurance finish. BMW drivers Beric Linton and Tim Leahy won the featured 4-hour production car race, taking the lead only after a front wheel came off Aaron Seaton's Audi TT-RS with just under a lap remaining. Jack Perkins wound up his year in fine style with victory in the final round of the Kerrick Sports Sedan Series. Perkins led home Tony Ricciardello, who had already wrapped up the title, his 10th. And Tim Macrow again dominated Formula 3 in that category's final hurrah as a standalone class. Next year, the Formula 3 cars will be joined by other under 2-litre open-wheelers in the new Formula A Australia category. Series have announced their champions for 2016 in the NHRA drag racing. Antron Brown has won the NHRA Top Fuel Championship after last weekend's final round at Pomona. In Japan, it was a come-from-behind victory for the Lexus pair of Heikki Kovalainen and Koei Hirate, while in NASCAR, the Final Four was decided in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup title. And that's where we'll start this week's In Pit Lane International Wrap. Joey Logano has joined Carl Edwards, Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch in the fight for this year's NASCAR Sprint Cup title after victory at the penultimate round at Phoenix. Logano took the lead from the fourth position when a wreck involving race leader Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch and early race leader Alex Bowman ended the first attempt at overtime. The crash ended Kenseth's chance of the title. Bowman, substituting for Dale Earnhardt Jr., started from pole and led most of the race. There was plenty of contact in the race to keep the crowd happy, as if the win of Donald Trump wasn't enough. Kyle Larson spun at the start, Greg Biffle made contact with Austin Dillon, and Ryan Newman spun after contact with Martin Truex Jr. The Lexus pairing of former Formula One driver Heikki Kovalainen and Koei Hirate dominated last weekend's final round of the Super GT to stage a stunning come-from-behind championship victory. The pair were in a class of their own all weekend as Lexus dominated the two sprint race format. Lexus cars finished 1 through to 5 in the final race for the RCF, which will be replaced next year by the new LC500-based car. And while Super GT has given us a tantalising glimpse of next year's cars, this spy footage by Hideto Nishida taken at the Autopolis test session gives us a much better look. The new Lexus will be joined by a new Honda NSX as well as an updated Nissan GTR. The new regulations feature new aerodynamics which are designed to slow the car down, but as per usual, the early testing has shown the cars to be actually slightly faster than the ones they're replacing. Speaking of fast, in NHRA drag racing, Doug Collida powered to a whole-shot victory with a 3.745 second pass to defeat J.R. Todd in the Top Fuel final at Pomona. In funny car, Tommy Johnson Jr. ran a 3.918 to beat John Force in the final. And Greg Anderson was able to beat his Chevy Camaro teammate and new series champion Jason Line on a whole shot in the Pro Stock final to take his 8th win of the season. And Sebastian Buemi has clinched his second victory in succession for Renault E-Dams to win the Marrakesh E-Prix. The defending champion started 7th after a 5-place penalty thanks to his car's fire extinguisher coming in underweight after qualifying. Buemi surgically sliced his way through the field to lead home Sam Bird and poleman Felix Rosenquist.
Pretty brave, wasn't it?
Yes, it'd be pretty brave to not to have a full fire extinguisher in an electric race car, I think. Now, coming up, when we come back after the break, speaking of drag racing, as we saw earlier, we're going to be heading out to Calder this weekend for the Roe Memorial Trophy. That's Saturday night, and we'll be joined by our special guest, Darren Parker, in just a moment to preview the big meeting. So until we come back, you stay tuned and be watching more of In Pit Lane. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Can bring that up. There we are. There we are. This is the for our YouTube people. This is the trophy concerned. Where do you want that, Darren? Are you getting that shot? It's best for you. Are you there? I think I'm on 4. Okay, so you're happy with that? I'll get rid of that running shoot for a start. It's good paper. Whoops, hello. I'm destroying it already. There we are. This is why they didn't bring the Melbourne Cup in that night. Yeah. Let's see if we can put it over here without destroying it. Okay. You right there, Matt? Yep. Okay. There we go. Okay, so if you're watching on the YouTube... We're a minute and 3 seconds over, YouTube. If you're watching, we're a minute and 3 seconds over. This is that because of that outmoded television nonsense. Would you like to take that out from anywhere? I'd like to take it out from here. Yes, I think I'd like to take it out from Probably there's a third segment where we're talking about people watching on YouTube to try and drag our Channel 31 viewers kicking and screaming into the 21st century. And I've given that a minute, and it'll take a lot longer than a minute. So we'll knock that back by 30 seconds. So the first segment of segment 3. There's a segment 2 coming up. Yes. So this is the interview. Okay, so whenever we're ready, we'll come back for Channel 31 viewers. That's the first segment of the first. It is the first segment of segment 3. The first segment of segment 3. Repartez. Les. No, I won't even try. Okay. Is anybody out there who'd like to give me a closing deal?
Because they were very red tonight. Everything's red.
Everything is red. Everything's red tonight. This is actually in sympathy for poor Job Watson, who had to give back his Brownlow medal. We're terribly sorry, Job.
Standing by.
You name a kid Job. I mean, what do you expect?
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, coming up this Saturday night out at Calder Park, drag racing action returns with the Rowe Memorial Trophy. And as you can see, the actual Rowe Memorial Trophy is alongside me here on the desk. One of the men who will want to add his name once again to this trophy is our guest tonight. Will you please welcome from Darren Parker. Darren, welcome to In Pit Lane.
Hello, Brett. How are you going?
Now, first of all, the Rowe Memorial, Andrew and Wayne Rowe, competitors from, I remember them from many years ago. For people who don't know, tell us the story of the Rowe brothers and why this is such an important trophy for you guys.
Look, so the Rowe brothers in Australia, or especially in Melbourne, in the street racing scene, were huge through the 70s. Everybody who was anybody knew who the Rowe brothers were. Now, obviously, I'm a little bit young to have been around back then, but the stories I hear about Andrew and Wayne and the stuff they got up to, like all street races, they eventually end up at the drags and started racing street cars, got into super stock and pro stock and started to dominate there as well. So unfortunately, there was an accident where Andrew passed away in 1981, and come 1982, the trophy you see in front of us was first competed.
And its official name is the Andrew Rowe Trophy, but unfortunately we've lost Wayne as well.
That's right. So Wayne died in 2010. I know he was doing a lot of work with Peter Ridgway getting his GTO up and running, and passed away just before Peter debuted the car.
Now, Peter's name is on this trophy. There's lots. If you look at it, it is an absolute who's who of Australian drag racing. When we say super stock, for people who don't know, what categories, what sort of cars are running in the super stock?
So the
class?
super stock class is started off as a factory-looking race car, and if you looked at it, the body would be a standard race car. However, modified with a big engine, big wheels and tyres, and traditionally a manual gearbox. So big wheel stands, fast, loud cars. But looked like the cars that your mum and dad drove on the street.
So what are we talking about in terms of the classes? Are we talking things like pro stock or super street, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so these days there's quite a few cars that are a pro stock style car. So mine's a Pontiac GXP, which looks like a lot of the pro stock cars you see in Australia and in America. But I run it with an auto transmission, so that enables me to run it down in super stock. But you still see the Camaros, the old style Camaros, Monaros, Tiranas, Capris, all those type of cars competing as well.
Well, looking at the trophy, we see the Zammit brothers there. They were that was a Nissan 260 or
300 ZX. Yeah, and a
ZX.
Nissan in a Tirana earlier as well.
Yeah. So we've got a pretty big turnout for this week, and I had a look at the entry list, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's 12 super stock cars entered, and I think there's 5 comp cars as well. So I believe that the two classes will be amalgamated to form super comp, which is fine. Gives the comp guys a chance to come and have a go at the trophy.
So what about the state of drag racing, mate? We've gone from having like no drag racing at Calder. The last few weeks we had the pro street guys with the funny cars, and we had the funny car guys on the program. Last week we had the jamboree, which sort of snuck up on a lot of us. I didn't even know that it was happening until about Thursday.
Yep.
And you're going back this week. I mean, can we have too much of a good thing?
I don't think so. I think the three markets that it was appealing to are all different. You know, the pro street guys are appealing to the standard-looking cars. I guess so they're really the super stock cars of Pro Street, if you like. The cars there, of course, have got turbochargers and sort of late model technology under the bonnet, whereas we all run carburetors or mechanical injection. The Jamboree, again, it's appealing to a different market, so it's the 4s, 6s and rotaries. And, you know, we're racing the Roe Memorial this weekend, but there's traditional drag racing. So there's the supercharged Outlaws, Top Sportsman, Super Sedan, Super Street, and then Super Stock and Comp being the headliner for the weekend.
So if people want to go out to Calder on the weekend, what's the best time to get out there? For people who haven't, because a whole generation just really haven't been out to drag racing.
Yeah, and look, and a lot of people won't know how it all works out at Calder. Qualifying starts reasonably early in the morning, so if you want to see all the cars going down the track, you know, I recommend getting out there early, you know, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock. But to get there for the finals, I think final elimination started at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, you know, to see the cars come out for the first round's good. But as a spectator, I always enjoy going and watching them from the start. So you get to see all the cars going down the track a couple of times.
So for people taking the family, what time do we think it's going to all wrap up?
Head out for lunch. Oh, sorry. All wrap up by about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, which is quite good.
So it's not a late night.
Yeah, in the old days, I mean, we used to get out at sort of 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Yeah, there's been days like that.
Yes, and which is good. We get to see plenty of racing under lights, but it's not particularly good if you've got a family and that sort of thing.
No, and it's hard on the car as well. You know, this time of year it's still quite cool, and if the track gets damp at night, it doesn't make for good racing.
That seemed to be a thing. Some of the footage I saw from the Jamboree it seemed to be a very slick track. I think Wayne Taylor put his Mad Professor top door slammer in pretty heavily.
Yeah.
It looked like a pretty slick track.
Yeah, well, I wasn't there that day, but I know there was a lot of rain around, so I don't know whether that affected anything. I did see the video, and he sort of got offline a little bit, so whether he overdrove it off the groove or out of the groove, if you like. You know, I've had my car out of the groove, and it's pretty scary.
What's the track like out at Calder now since the resurface? I mean, is it all bedded in now? Good surface?
Peter's done a lot of work. I haven't driven down the track for almost 2 years, just over 2 years. So, you know, I heard some of the Jamboree cars were running PBs on the weekend, so it can't be that bad.
It certainly looks $1 million.
Yeah, the racing surface looks good.
As far as the future of drag racing is concerned, I mean, Calder is obviously the closest track that we've got to Melbourne, and that's really important. Do we have any idea as drag racers? Do you have any idea as to what the long-term future of Calder Park is? Has there been any feedback at all from the track as to what's happening out there?
Unfortunately not. We know that there was some work done out there previously to try and improve the surface of the track. The right lane was a little bit bumpy, and I remember seeing cars wheel standing across the finish line. My understanding is those bumps have been removed. For long term after that, I'm not 100% sure. I know Peter Pistolides, who is the promoter out there, has spoken about some improvements, but other than, you know, just talking about it, we haven't sort of seen anything happening.
So what's the long-term plan for drag racing in Victoria? If Calder sort of shuts up shop tomorrow, what happens?
Well, then we're in trouble. As far as I know, we don't have a contingent plan. Contingent plan, yeah. So
is that something that, you know, Andrew needs to? Well, they should have looked at it years ago, but I mean, that's a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Well, there was a group a few years ago who were looking at trying to talk to the government about a facility in Melbourne. But even right back then, whilst Calder was still running or still available to run, that was never going to happen. So where Peter is now, it's all about getting out there and showing everyone that we're here to race and we want to race. And if it does get closed down, well, then we're going to have to fight harder again.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we've got to, for drag racing fans, we've got to sort of really, you know, focus in on the fact this is what you've got, guys. There's no point getting on, and a lot of people get online and lots of forums and whinge and moan about Calder's this and Calder's that. Yes, it's all of the above and worse and then some, but at the moment it's all we got.
That's right, it's all we've got. Let's get out and race. You know, have some fun. We've got some expensive cars sitting in the garage, but if you're not racing, then what are we doing with them?
Well, if people want to go out on the weekend, hope on Saturday night, I hope they'll come and chat to you. I'm sure you'll be more than welcome to see everybody.
Definitely.
But for now, Darren, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Fantastic, Brett. Thank you.
And we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have some more news and, of course, some live music. You're watching In Pit Lane. We'll be back in just a moment. if you want to unbutton yourself, and we'll just let Darren take his trophy home before I do any more damage to it. And we will see you. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the weekend. On see you on Saturday night.
Let's hope. Are you coming out,
I plan to. Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, we'll take the camera out and get some stuff for next week's news.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks a lot. There we go. Yes. So all of you watching on YouTube, we will have news from the meeting next week's show. As we said earlier, the Macau Grand Prix is this weekend. Streaming happening from Thursday. The whole meeting is covered. All the support categories. There's some wild support categories. The FIA GT3 World Cup, and of course the Macau Grand Prix itself. Not just the Formula 3 race, but also for motorcycles as well. One of the great meetings, and one of the most bizarre meetings you'll ever go to. If you ever get the chance to go to the Macau Grand Prix, please take it. I've just been, ladies and gentlemen, some late breaking news. There is a discrepancy between the timing of the song on paper. I don't need to cut 30 seconds because the discrepancy has been found. Ladies and gentlemen, you can stand down. You can stand down, all troops. We are ready to go. Okay. Well, that's marvellous. So we might as well head back into it then, I suppose. We're standing by. Are you ready, Phil? That's my presenting position. I learned that one from Philip Brady. That's my John Michael Housen. Oh, Gail. Oh, really? Oh. Okay. So are we ready? Are we ready to come back? 15 seconds. We'll be back in 15 seconds. Okay.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane on Channel 31 and, of course, live on YouTube. Now, speaking of YouTube, for those of you, as I said last week, there's still some confusion out there regarding the future of Channel 31. Let's be sure about this. Channel 31 at the end of this year, unfortunately, on free-to-air television, is no more, is kaput. Finito, gone. Bye-bye. Malcolm doesn't like us. We're finished. That's it. The end of it. But if you want to still watch In Pit Lane, and look, to be honest with you, we don't know what this show is going to look like in future in the brave new world of YouTube. YouTube changes everything. But the only way you're going to find out is to get online now and do it. If you're still watching the old-fashioned way on television, look, I can tell you in 10 years' time, people of the next generation are going to be sitting around looking at you and going, you used to watch what? It's all changing. So if you want to watch In Pit Lane, if you want to watch special features and also other programs from RMI TV and some of your favourites from Channel 31, go online, and if you want to watch In Pit Lane, our YouTube channel, In Pit Lane, youtube.com/In Pit Lane, subscribe, and that way when we put up a new show, you'll be informed about it. Also, remember, if you want to keep up with the news, we're going to have a whole new website, but that's going to be sort of the summer project, is designing a brand new website as well. But right now, you get all the news, including live streaming events like Macau, at inpitlane.com. So check that out. Well, coming up this weekend sees the end of an era with two racing icons marking their final race start. Australia's Mark Webber will make his final appearance as a full-time professional racing driver when he lines up in his Porsche 919 at the 6 Hours of Bahrain. Webber, who began his career in karts back in his hometown of Queanbeyan, won the New South Wales State Championship in 1993 before moving on to Formula Ford. He later moved to the UK, where he was successful in several categories before obtaining a factory drive with Mercedes in sports car racing. In 2002, he realised his dream and moved to Formula One, where he went on to win 9 Grands Prix. In 2014, Webber moved back to sports cars with Porsche, winning last year's World Endurance Drivers title. This weekend also sees the end of Audi's incredible sports car career and the farewell to its charismatic motorsport boss, Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich. Audi's endurance racing program has been extraordinarily successful. Starting in 1999, it has won Le Mans an incredible 13 times. They also won 9 American Le Mans Series championships and 2 World Endurance Championships. Through that time, the team's boss, Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich, has gained a reputation as one of the sport's most respected and well-liked characters. His passion for the sport and his good sportsmanship has made him as big a personality as the drivers he's been in charge of. Audi are quitting the WEC and will instead concentrate their factory efforts on the DTM, Rallycross and the growing Formula E all-electric series. And to both of those guys, in the 20 years I've been doing In Pit Lane, by far two of the nicest guys, Mark Webber and Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich, two of the nicest guys that I've encountered. Fabulous people. Well, a big night of racing in Sydney on the weekend as that city played host to the AusX Open Motocross. The event attracted a huge crowd, and with a local boy coming out on top, they would have all gone home pretty damn happy. Two-time world champion Australia's Chad Reed has won the 2016 AusX Open crown. Reed powered his way through the pack on the opening laps, taking the lead from 4-time world champion Ryan Villopoto with a strategic use of the shortcut lane. The race came down to the wire, with Reed having to fend off hard-charging American Cooper Webb, who finished second, with the newly crowned Australian Supercross champion Justin Brayton rounding out the podium. Villopoto came home in fourth. Much to the delight of the 26,000-plus crowd, Reed won both nights of the competition to dominate what has become the biggest Supercross event in the Southern Hemisphere. And now for your relaxation and meditation, In Pit Lane would like to offer you, our viewer, free of any charge, this brief meditative moment and hope that you, like me, may one day achieve total nirvana. Lewis Hamilton won a wet and chaotic Brazilian Grand Prix on Sunday to take the Formula One title battle with his Mercedes teammate Nico Rosberg down to the wire in Abu Dhabi. Hamilton's third win in a row left him just 12 points behind Rosberg, who finished second, with the pair both on 9 victories each for the season. The drive of the race, though, went to 19-year-old Max Verstappen. Verstappen passed Kimi Raikkonen at the start and then took Rosberg for second place. He then saved a near spin but dropped back to 16th place after his final pit stop. He then managed to overtake more than half the field in the space of the 17 laps remaining to finish third. Things didn't go quite as well for Verstappen's teammate, Australia's Daniel Ricciardo. He had to settle for 8th place. And that's all the time we have for this week. Next week, on the penultimate edition of In Pit Lane on Channel 31, we'll preview the 2016 Improved Production Nationals, all a part of the traditional end-of-season party that is Island Magic. But right now, we're going to take you out with some live music from Melbourne singer Danny Lou Chevelle, and you can see her every. If you keep rolling up, Phil, you're going to tell people where they can see Danny. No, we can't. We can't tell you where you can see Danny, but she's on Facebook, and tonight she's going to play us out. So from all of us here at In Pit Lane, here's Danny Lou, and you can and her song, which I don't know what it is because Phil has lost the things. Ah, there it is. With Dreams Don't Work unless Phil rolls the auto cue. Until we see you next week, good night.
There's no handbook to this life, mixed up chaos all the time. Why do we seek the answers, sifting through truths and all the lies? Kept down with clouded self-doubt, there is no easy way out. Don't wait, medicate your faces, clear minds always come up paces. Dreams don't work unless you do, and change always starts with you. Dreams don't work unless you do, and we're all here for you. Maybe your soul's been weakened, fire in you, and I know that it won't ever be gone. For every step that you take and everything that you create, it's okay to have a bad day. We can wipe them tears away. 'Cause dreams don't work unless you do. And change always starts with you. And dreams don't work unless you do. And we're all here for you. Dreams don't work unless you do. And change